Hello, welcome to the Art of RA. The colors I'll be using are on the screen. I'm using a black canvas. You can either get a white canvas and get black gesso and paint it on and let it dry, or you can order the black canvas. I order them right from Amazon and they work out pretty good. So when I start the painting, I'll be putting liquid clear on. So here you can see me lifting the hairs from the brush off the canvas. Anytime you use bristle brushes, you tend to lose some of the hairs and stuff. You just take the corner of the brush and you can flip them right off the canvas. Then you wipe your brush to get the hair off. And pretty soon I'll start putting the paint on and stuff. You'll start seeing I'll be using cadmium yellow light with white. And it's fairly transparent, semi-transparent, so you're gonna barely see it when I start applying it on the canvas. Dabbing the brush into it, getting plenty of paint in between the bristles. You can see too when I cleaned my brush, I forgot to wipe all the paint thinner out. So I use a odorless paint thinner, and I bought all this stuff off Amazon. You want to make sure you use it for artists, for painting art, not going to the hardware store and getting it, because it'll run you right out of the room if you try to buy some at the hardware store. Even though it says it's odorless, it's not odorless. Yep, getting another paint hair off. So as I paint this, you'll see kind of like making the shape of an eye. And then I'll go around the outside of that with some Indian yellow. And you're going to see the Indian yellow will, because I don't have any paint thinner. Well, maybe I do have a little bit, but I cleaned my brush better. No, guess not. This is where it starts thinning. It doesn't go on very, very good. You can see that it's very, 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 you can hardly see it. But it'll work out in the end once I start blending everything together. It's a semi-transparent paint, so now if I added white paint to it, it would probably it'd make it more opaque. You'd be able to see it a little better. But I was just putting it on straight here because it's going to be covered up anyway. I'm just laying paint down on the canvas. I think I go around that one more time with either cad yellow or, yeah, that looks like cad yellow. Huh. Looks like one big eye, doesn't it? All right, painting's done. No. That'd make an odd painting, wouldn't it? Now, I'm going to switch over to alizarin crimson and put that on the rest of the canvas. Well, not yet. I guess I'm trying to darken that up more, but it's not because it's such a transparent paint. It's just showing the black through. If it was a white canvas, it'd be showing up like crazy, but there's a reason I use a black canvas. I love the effects that it gives. Here's a alizarin crimson. So like I said, I'm trying to get the whole canvas covered with paint. And you'll see me start blending it all together. It looks kind of weird now, but you know, and you're probably like, what in the world is he painting? But watch as I start blending it all. Tap the brush. Get the paint down in between all the bristles so you got the paint good and loaded on your brush. Doing crisscross to apply the paint. And then I'll just go back and forth. You see me kind of going at an angle. I start trying to, you can see me blending it. And I'll start trying to work on getting my angles on the sky to give it more perspective. You see there? It's a very loose painting. Once I start on the mountains, though, that's the part that's a little, you know, you get a little bit of precision, but not too bad. Now it looks like I'm just covering all this up, but in all actuality, when I get it all blended, you'll see that it's going to show up better. You'll see the yellow. So start at the yellow and start blending out, and then it pulls that into the alizarin crimson, and then it lightens up as you go up. So it makes it so that you can see the alizarin crimson mixed in with the yellow and stuff. So that's the reason I put the liquid clear on, so it just mixes the paint on the palette. Or on the canvas, rather. Now you can see it's starting to come together. Like, oh yeah. I love it when it starts really starting to look different. So I'm going back and forth and blending the paints together. Getting another hair off. Should have wiped the brush that time. Now I'm going to clean the brush. I'm going to switch brushes. This is a soft bristle brush, which takes all the brush strokes out. It really smooths it out. You can't tell on the video, but where I was sitting, you could see the brush marks. Sometimes that's a good thing, but on this painting, I wanted to have it kind of smoothed out because I was going to be layering over top of that. All right, another hair. I'm wiping it off, going back, trying to smooth out where I had the brush mark where I pulled the hair off. So at this point, I'm pretty happy with how it's going. So you can see I'm just wiping the brush off just to get some of the extra paint off. Yep, time to switch brushes, I think. There. I apologize for the elbows. I just had my little tripod sitting on the table. So the next painting I do, I'll have it showing a little better. It's just like with any painting, you know, you learn. This is my first painting video. I'm hoping to inspire other people though, and you know, anybody can do this. All they gotta have is the will to do it. And just kind of invest in the paints. This is a large filbert brush that I'm gonna start applying some Indian yellow and white, I think. So it gives it's a little more opaque. And you'll see where I'm actually, I'm kind of in my, look like a composer there, you know, with this wine and stuff. I'm trying to think how I want to start my lighter colors and stuff. So here I start putting it on, and then I know I got to go up at an angle to give me more perspective in the sky. So that's what you'll see me doing here, lightening up the sky more. Now it looks like I'm mixing white with more Indian yellow. And you see me start working my angle up to the corners of the canvas. It's important to establish that perspective. It gives you that sense of depth in the painting. This is the exciting part once you get to this stage and you start putting other colors on and you laying your paints. Really starts to come alive. Now it looks like I'm getting some cadmium yellow light and white. I'm putting my sun in. Now I wish I would have taken Indian yellow and white and went down a little bit farther with the sky too. And you'll see why when I start painting the mountains on. And here I am looking at it and kind of composing in my head. Oftentimes I'll start a painting and I'll have an idea of how I want to paint it, but the canvas and the canvas take me in a whole different direction, and it always works out for the better. Don't ever be afraid to just be bold and start putting paint on the canvas. Worst case scenario, you're going to mess up and you just take your palette knife and scrape everything off and start over. Blend it out, start over. But in this case, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. Here I want to water down at the bottom of the canvas, so I'm doing the reflection of the sun. And this is really cool. When I get ready to blend that out, you'll see that because the canvas is already wet, when I go to blend that, you can move it around and it looks like it's shimmering on the water. So I'm getting my blendy brush, my soft bristle brush, to start blending the sky. And all right, more paper towel. I go through a lot of paper towel. I should just get a whole roll and set it by me. I'm thinking about switching over to cloth, like cotton rags. So here I am blending again. I'm trying to blend up, and you see my angles. I'm thinking about those angles. Soften it up around the edges of the sun. Now here's where I start blending the water a little better. And you see where it's moving the reflection of that sun. So it's making it look like it's almost shimmering in the water. And oftentimes when I'm painting, I'll change something. You'll see at one point, I'll decide I want to change the around the area of the sun. I was liking it, but I want it to be a little lighter in that area around the sun. And you'll see why when I start painting my clouds and stuff. And normally a sun would be a lot brighter at that high up, but I'm trying to give it the illusion that it's like kind of showing showing behind the clouds. A little bit. So I'll be softening it up around the edges of the sun. Hey, already I'm liking how the sky's starting to look. But I'll be making some other changes that'll really make it pop. I think if you were to make the investment and just get a regular, like a Bob Ross blending brush, it's a really soft bristle brush, and it works really good blending. This little brush, I kept having like marks where my brush would stop. So you see me going all the way from one side of the canvas to the other. I'm trying to make sure I get all those marks out. Now I'm getting ready to do the mountains. So for the mountain, I think I used maybe a little bit of Alizarin Crimson and Payne's Gray, maybe. Either that or Burn Umber straight. All I needed was something like a background for the mountains to give me the shape of it. So I needed something dark. And you'll see when I start putting it on. You see I'm putting a lot of pressure too now. The knife is really bending. You can see my canvas really moving because I'm pressing on it, pressing that paint into it. I like to paint, I like to just paint, make it up as I go. I don't really care for looking at photographs and trying to paint them. You know, to me, it's like you want to be try to make it look exactly like the photograph, and you got to do this just right, just so it looks exactly like it. And this is more exciting to me, is to start putting the paint on the canvas and let the canvas show me what it wants. I mean, I have a basic idea when I start painting, and when it really works out, I'm so very happy. This is what I was saying about wishing I would have went down farther with the sky. so that the sky was down low behind the mountains, because the mountains would have stood out even more when I started putting this layer of paint on. Now I'm taking the extra paint off. You need to take that extra paint off, really scrape it good to get the, because when you start to put your highlights on, it won't, it'll just, it won't go on very good. It'll just slide. There's a few things on the mountains I wished I would have done differently, but overall I was pretty happy with it. All right, cleaning the knife off. I'm gonna get my brush, get a clean brush. I have a little basket with a rack in it that I can run the brush back and forth after I wash it in the paint thinner, and it dries the brush off. I put it in there and beat the devil out of it. So, as Bob Ross would have said. He was my inspiration. I first started, when I started learning to paint, I started watching videos, Bob Ross videos, and I was like, well, I could do that. And then as I started painting, I started watching other painters and trying, all different painters to get ideals. Instead of just one, I was taking ideals from all of them. Well, I'm going to wash the paint off the brush. Then I'm going to go back to the palette knife and start putting highlights on the mountains. So for the highlights, I used burnt umber and yellow ochre, and I mixed it together, but I left it marbled so that you could see strings of the burnt umber and the yellow ochre. You don't want to overmix it. Excuse me. This is the hardest part right here, is trying to have a steady hand and put the paint on. Now here I wish I would have started putting it on the right side of the mountain. I realized that I made a mistake there. Like I said, you know, when I'm painting, I always find something I could do better. And ask most painters, they'll probably tell you their worst critic is themselves. It's just how it is. A lot of people might say, oh, they really love your painting, and then you're just like, well, it could have been better, you know. But overall, I'm happy with how it turned out. So I'm putting burnt umber and the yellow ochre slightly mixed on. And you'll see as I go through this painting that there's certain parts that I wasn't happy with, so I went back and redid or changed it a little bit. I'll get all this on the mountains, and then I'll turn around and put a just yellow ochre over top of the highlighted to bring it, make it pop a little bit more. But it works okay because you layer the paint on, so some of this paint is showing through. I was really happy when I got done with it, and the mountains were textured the way I did this compared to the rest of the, so they really pop compared to the rest of the painting. So here I'm going to let you watch as I put this on, and then I'll come back when I start putting the other highlight on. I just wanted it to be a little brighter. Okay, here I'm using just straight Payne's Gray for my shadows on the mountain. And I'm kind of working it like I did the other side, but then I start realizing that once I start bouncing the knife up and down, it's starting to add texture, and I really like the way it was looking. Uh, you can see I'm starting to bounce just dab the paint on with the knife. So what it's doing is it's sticking to the canvas, and when I release it, it's raising the paint up a little bit, so it's giving the painting texture. Okay, here I'm starting to put my shadows in on the mountain, and I'm just using straight Payne's Gray. You see me start uh, dabbing the paint on, just taking my palette knife and kind of bouncing it real lightly up and just letting the canvas take the paint. But I'm bouncing the palette knife over top to give it texture. and it really turned out awesome. I love the texture that it gave it. You can tell I'm bouncing that. You can see the canvas kind of moving a little bit where I'm dabbing the paint on. I like the effect that it's given. All right, I think this is where I start making some changes. You'll see, I'll change the sky. I'll change the mountains. I think I'm gonna do a lighter color on the mountains now over top of that. Yep. Yep. I think that's straight yellow ochre. You see I'm just kind of dabbing and bouncing it. Like, well, like you can be a little lighter yet. It's coming along. So I want to talk a little bit about the kind of brushes. I have bristle brushes that I use. When you do paint oil paintings, bristle brushes are the best. People do use soft bristle brushes to paint, but they use it with like a mixture of linseed oil and turpentine or paint thinner, like an 80-20 mix, probably 80% linseed oil, 20% turpentine or paint thinner. Which I don't have any linseed oil, so I'm gonna invest in some so I can start trying that. Doing it that way would make your paint dry faster. Now you can see I'm putting more highlights on the mountains. Make them stand out more to the background. And okay, here I'm starting to put a little bit brighter highlights on the mountain to make it pop even more. You can see me kind of dabbing it. So I believe this is straight cadmium, or I'm sorry, straight yellow ochre that I'm using to brighten up the mountains. So at one point my camera quit, and I had decided that I wanted to brighten up around the sun there a little better, so you'll see like it'll just show up on the screen where the sun was. It'll be a little brighter yellow right in there. Here I'm taking white paint, and I I dabbed my brush in the titanium white, and then I took a paper towel and wiped most of the paint off the brush. Because what I want to do is kind of almost make it look like a fog effect at the bottom of the mountains. So I'm going to clean it up, and you'll see me put it in probably put it in the waste basket, and yeah, I'm gonna beat the devil out of it, so to speak. Then I'm gonna wipe it dry as I can. Usually when you, and then I'm gonna start going back in. I'm gonna blend it even more so that the brighter white doesn't show up as much. It kind of softens it up more. All right. So now I'm taking a brush and I'm just lightly, real light, real light, just kind of brushing it up so that it's kind of blended it into the mountains a little bit. Very light. And wash the brush again. I'm going to wash the brush and then I'll get it cleaned up and then probably set it down. I think this is where I changed the sky and the reflection in the water. Coming up just about now, I think. Yep, you can see right there. I decided I want a little bit brighter area right around there, and you'll see why. Because I'm going to be working from that area out. Here I'm using a dagger brush so I can get pretty straight lines, and you know how you get those streaks of clouds in the sky and stuff. So it's a fairly loose painting, when you're doing your brush work and stuff. It's the hardest part is doing the mountains. My hands shake, but they say sometimes that's better, when you're putting the paint on because you're shaking and you're dabbing it. But I managed to get it done. You can see how I'm putting like streaks of clouds around. And as I go up with the clouds, I'll be going up at it at an angle towards the outside of the canvas, like I did when I was blending earlier. This is where I really start really painting loosely. So basically what I'm doing is I'm like doing U's or X's. And it's really giving a cool effect, like the clouds look and stuff. And once I blend it out, it takes out those brush marks and the paint stays where I put it. So it really makes the painting pop. You can already see that it's starting to look a lot better since the beginning of the painting, you know, you're probably going, man, what is this guy doing? Yeah, you're going to see me really get loose with that brush now as I go, because I'll be making the clouds kind of bigger and stuff up towards the top. Excuse me. So this is the Indian yellow and white, I believe, that I was using to do the clouds. The white brightens it up. There's my X strokes. So you'll see me working on this for a bit and then enjoy the music until, because I'm going to use the same color that I told you I was using. To do the sky, I'll be working from the horizon up, and as I go up, it'll be more at an angle, going to like the corners of the canvas. You can see that it's real loose brushwork. Just carefree, you know, I'm putting the paint on. Worst case scenario, I'm going to mess up the painting and then I'll just have to scrape it off and redo it. So, but you can already start to see that it's giving you the impression that there's clouds in the sky and that off at a distance. All right, I'll be back in a second. Okay, well, we're getting down towards the end of this video, so stay tuned. Please watch the part 2 of this to see the finished product. It's coming along. I'm pretty happy with it so far, and you'll see it pop even more. God bless.